You guys ready?
Yep, ready when
We
you
stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning, Mr. Chair.
All right, any additions or deletions to the agenda? I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
I got a motion, I need a second.
Second.
I have a second. Any more discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Consent agenda. Gentlemen, is there anything in there that you'd like to have removed that we can have more discussion? And this will be a roll call.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
All right, I have a motion. I need a second.
Second.
I got a second somewhere down the
Yeah,
line there.
pick whatever you want.
Anyway, any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Roll call.
Oh, yeah, I said roll call and I'm saying the opposite already. Okay. Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Casper.
Aye.
Blaine.
Aye.
Lemire.
Aye.
Myself is an aye. Motion carried. Thank you. All right, Emergency Medical Services Week proclamation. Come on aboard. You're gonna have to come up here and give a speech, each one of you, so just to let you know.
Excellent.
All right.
Yes.
No, this cover have Nathan or introduce yourselves and tell us what you have.
Good morning, Commissioners. Nathan Bertram, Health and Human Services Director. I am here with some of our local emergency responders here to do the proclamation and with them talk a little bit about Emergency Medical Services Week.
Cool.
Yep, I can go first. I'm Kathy Talberg. I am with the MLMB First Response Team. This is my husband Larry Talberg, also with the MLMB First Response Team. We have had some difficult calls. We've had some good calls. Brought with this year, we were recognized for Team of the Year this year at the recognition, so we're very, very proud of that. You can look in the Morrison County Record this week that came out. There's an article on our team in there, why we all kind of joined and kind of some of the things that we do. So we're very proud of what we do and want to do it for a long time. Those that don't know, we also have the event Lids for Kids that's out there, where we get helmets on kids. We give out a $100 gift certificate for kids to get a helmet to keep them safe when they're riding those ATVs. So that's going fantastically well this year. So that'll be coming up in a couple weeks.
Nice.
I'm Marion Larson. I'm your regional EMS coordinator. So I serve 11 counties from Albertville to Walker, Wadena to Wisconsin, and Morrison happens to be smack dab in the middle. Morrison County is a special place in my heart. My husband is from here, and I've seen the good work that he does and people like Kathy do. I'll draw your attention to April 5th was Morrison County's EMS recognition event. It was really well attended. It was a phenomenal evening. We were able to recognize Sue Ulrich, Jean Epsky for their longtime decades of service to Morrison County and the folks who live here. We also recognized Garrett and Mary Beth Doucette and Amber Koopmeiners for their prolific work on advertising Upsala. And then Emily Loomis from here in Morrison County was recognized as a supporter of EMS for all the work that she does to help coordinate the teams and give them their support. We also recognize Commissioner Jelinski for his tireless advocacy of first responders within Morrison County and the state. And then MLMB was recognized as Team of the Year, as Kathy said, for taking their tragedies and turning it into something positive for their community at whole. You have responders that you should be proud of and that who work each and every day for the citizens of Morrison County. And then, shall I read the proclamation? And so this week is EMS week, and so I'm happy to be here to read this proclamation for EMS, Emergency Medical Services Week. So, whereas emergency medical services play a critical role in public service, and whereas emergency medical services teams are prepared to offering life-saving assistance to those in need around the clock every day of the year, and whereas access to high-quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness and injury, and whereas emergency medical services fills a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care including volunteer first response teams, like Kathy's, community resources, preventative medicine, follow-up care, and telemedicine access. And whereas emergency medical service system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, your emergency dispatchers, firefighters, law enforcement officers, public health emergency preparedness coordinators, emergency nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other medical care providers. And whereas members of emergency medical service teams, whether career or volunteer, undergo thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to improve their life-saving skills. And whereas designating Emergency Medical Services Week is a fitting way to acknowledge the achievements and importance of the emergency medical services provider. Now, therefore, may it be resolved that we, or you, the Board of Morrison County Commissioners of the great state of Minnesota, in recognition of this event, do hereby proclaim the week of May 19th through 25, 2024, Emergency Medical Services Week in Morrison County, and we call this observance to the attention of all of our citizens and encourage the community to show appreciation.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion to make, for the week, for Emergency Medical Services Week proclamation.
Mr. Chair, I'll move on this.
I need a
Second.
second. I got a second. Any more discussion? Commissioner Jelinski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I look at this morning and I see Emergency Medical Services Week, and I look out here and I see emergency services. I see it all right here in front of me, and I see it every day. We don't ever mention family that are connected with any of our emergency medical services people. Hardly ever do we mention family, but they're just as involved and engaged in this as those that are the boots on the ground, if you will. More often than not, we don't look at our dispatch staff when we talk about EMS week. We talk about dispatchers that they've got their own week, if you will, but they're as engaged in the whole world of EMS as anyone else is. And that's not to slight one of our boots on the ground people at all. Every one of our people that are part of EMS, whether it's our first responders, who, ladies and gentlemen, are unpaid and generally so unfunded that it's scary, to our full-service ambulance people, to our firefighters, to our police officers, dispatchers, to the families of each one of them. Hands out to each one of them. I can't say enough for it. You will never hear me talk ill of a first response team or an EMS service ever, because of the importance that they all serve. And all I can do is say thank you.
Commissioner Lemire.
I'd like to say thank you too. You do a wonderful job. You do work that nobody else wants to do. And the thing that's unique about you guys is you're not on a schedule. You're 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. You're at your Thanksgiving dinner, your Christmas opening, presents, and in a second's notice, you're up and running to assist somebody in need. And you could be there 30, 35 minutes before the ambulance gets there. That's a tough job. And I just want you to know we really appreciate what you do. You're a vital component to the citizens of Morrison County, and we can't thank you enough.
Commissioner Casper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I'd just like to say thank you to you folks. You're the first ones there to start picking up the pieces and stop the blood. Thank you for running toward the tragedy instead of running from it. We greatly appreciate what you folks do. God bless your efforts.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'm pretty repetitive over the years. My mother was the first responder, EMS, back in the 70s when they started. That was out in the Morrill area, and that was unbelievable what they used to do. And it's really, nothing's really changed. You're out there helping, but what I always like to do is promote what you do, but not only that, how do you get volunteers? Is there just out in the eastern part of Morrison County, or are they in the western part, or, so where does one, if they want to be part of this organization, how does one become or contact someone? Here at the courthouse, where do they go?
I've had Jane and Victoria reach out to me a few times saying that so-and-so has contacted them and they would like to become a first responder, and so then she'll give out my contact information, and then they'll contact me, and then I will call that person, let that person know when our next meeting is, and we invite them to the next meeting. We do a little interview with them and that, and, after that, if the team decides they're gonna be a good fit for us, then we, set them up with education through Pat Boone and get their education, their certificates going, and they join the team. And we've had some people that have joined our team that have actually been on calls with us. Their family had called us for calls, and they had asked us, and it was one of our ATV accidents with the 8-year-old boy. All the family was standing around, and a couple of the family members came up and asked if they could help do CPR on the child. And so we took them up on it because, again, we were going on 45 minutes to an hour of doing CPR, and, you know, we're getting tired, and it was good to get some fresh arms in there to do that. And after that, they joined our team because of being able to help out then.
And that's a great example, and we appreciate that here at the county, and I'm sure the rest of the residents of the county do it, because you're the silent people also, because they don't even know, you know, you're just like everybody else, that you're part of this emergency, man. So if the phone rings or however it works, you're on call, like, one of the commissioners said that you're on call 24 hours a day. People don't realize that. And it's not a want, it's a need in this county, because again, you may be there in 20 minutes, half an hour before anybody else can get there. So I know I really appreciate what you guys do for the residents here of the county. So anything else, gentlemen?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
just to note, the names used are Victoria and Jane, and for those listening, that's Victoria, our emergency manager for Morrison County, and Jane is our lead dispatcher. So those are two great points of contact. Or if somebody's interested, they get a hold of Emily Loomis, who's on our health side of the emergency response and preparedness, and administration office. If anybody's interested, stop by and give us your name, and we'll get you in touch with the right team.
Appreciate that, yeah. Sometimes I assume, you know, that everybody knows who we're talking about, so. All right, if there's no more discussion, again, I have a motion and I had a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Is this a picture?
We hope so, Mr.
All
Chair.
right.
I think so, yes.
Can't believe you asked.
Come on up before, bring your little ward too, please.
You bet. Oh, yeah.
Each and hold one.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Where to stand?
I don't either.
Okay, we'll put you forward in the front row, holding your awards, and there's the picture or the camera.
Oh, Matt doesn't get it on us?
I'm good.
I just need a couple of you guys to tighten in a little bit.
All right,
Oops.
we'll get it on.
You guys, can you see her?
Yeah.
All
Yep.
right.
Got it.
All right.
All right,
Again,
awesome.
thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Thanks, Nate.
No joke today.
Nope.
Okay, moving forward, gentlemen. Boys and Girls Club, I recognize some people in the audience. Come on up and state your name, please. And tell us what you have for us.
Gratitude
There
is
we
what we
go.
have for you. Yeah, sure. Nate Jansen here, the Little Falls Boys and Girls Club. I'm the senior site manager at the club here.
Hello, my name's Deb Nebesis. I'm Director of Development with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Minnesota. Good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about the Boys and Girls Club. I know Morrison County's been a big supporter in the past, especially through someone who really founded the club here, Bernie Jube. So as I said, I'm Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Minnesota. Previously, up until last October, the Boys and Girls Clubs of Little Falls was under a different parent organization. They were under the Boys and Girls Clubs of North Star, which was based out of Elk River. So that organization has dissolved, and Nate and that club is now under the umbrella of Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Minnesota. So we're located in St. Cloud. Nate, bless you. Nate and I have worked together for a long time through the Minnesota Alliance of Boys and Girls Clubs. And when Bernie was first talking about developing a Boys and Girls Club in Little Falls, he was actually on one of our committees, a plan giving committee. And so I had worked with Bernie probably since the early 2000s, and he was deeply connected to our club, our different clubs in St. Cloud. And that's what this club was patterned after. And Boys and Girls Clubs of America has a policy that you can't just start a new club. You have to be under the umbrella of a parent organization and existing club. So we really wanted to be the parent organization for Little Falls, but we were building a different club at the time. We just didn't have the capacity, and that's why they sort of ended up under Boys and Girls Clubs of Elk River, so which is a little bit further. So Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Minnesota makes sense. So when that club dissolved, we were really excited to start working with Nate and take over those clubs, or this club. So that's sort of the history now on why Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Minnesota is involved. So one thing I like to always assure everybody, especially people here in Little Falls, as we're in the community more and more, dollars that are invested in this particular club stay in this community. So it takes a lot of money to run all of our clubs the way we want to run them, especially with the expanded hours that Nate's going to talk about, a little bit better pay structure so that we can keep our staff employed for a longer period of time. It just takes money. So any dollars that are invested stay in the Little Falls community. And we've worked in lots of little towns, Cold Spring and St. Joe and Clearwater, Clear Lake, and that's just really important to residents of those communities, so we would certainly like to assure that. But just a little bit of information about Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Minnesota, and then Nate's going to talk specifically about Boys and Girls Clubs of Little Falls. But our organization, we have 18 different locations. We sort of run two different programs. We run school-based programs called Kid Stop that have a fee associated with them. And when there's a fee, obviously parents that can afford to pay. Parents who can't, we use CCAP and TANF dollars, and then a Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Minnesota Scholarship Fund. We try to ensure that every child who needs services has access to them through our Kid Stop service. So that's in every public school in the St. Cloud, Sauk Rapids, Sartell communities. We are not the school provider, after-school care provider in Little Falls. That's done through community ed. But certainly we would be open to that if they ever needed a provider. But we are in those 3 school districts right now in St. Cloud. And then we also run our free programs, and that's actually what the Little Falls program falls under. So those are clubs that are owned, the facilities are owned and operated by Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Minnesota. We have expanded hours in those locations. We have full-service meal programs, more full-time dedicated staff than we have in our after-school care program. So, and again, as I said, that's the program that Nate's Boys and Girls Club falls under. So again, really trying to make sure that any kids who need the services have access to them. So any questions? I will also say we're kind of a relatively large employer in the community. We sort of bounce around between 250 and 275 employees. I think right now we have 8 employees in Little
7,
Falls.
yep.
7 employees in Little Falls. So continuing to expand that as we expand the hours in the Little Falls community. So any questions at all about sort of the parent organization, Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Minnesota, or how that merger took place?
Seems like you're doing a good job of explanation so far.
Oh, all right, well, I'm trying, but if anything pops up, let us know. So I'm gonna turn this over to Nate, who has been a fixture in this community for a long time and in the Boys and Girls Club movement. And when that whole thing was taking place, we were so thankful that Nate stayed with the organization. So Nate?
All right, yeah. Like Deb said, I'm with the Little Falls Boys and Girls Club. A lot of things have changed from the Elk River to the St. Cloud, and a lot for the good in our eyes. We service kids, members that are through kindergarten to graduation. So that's a new change, getting younger kids in there and people who are not graduating school or being able to stay in there to have that help through that area. Our teen numbers are starting to spike. Not sure exactly what we're doing right, but teens are definitely coming to the club, keeping them off the streets, you know. I'm just told Deb I had a parent upstairs that I haven't seen the kids for a while, and she's coming over to grab memberships for them right away. So a lot of our youth are from the free and reduced, qualify for the free and reduced lunch. So you do see a lot of families that are in need of the Boys and Girls Club. I think it was like 78% of the kids had a free and reduced lunch. That doesn't mean that all the kids are struggling in that portion. The mule program, we are really close to getting up and running. I'm excited about that. We're talking about being able to serve suppers and lunches now for the kids. We will be doing that through the school this year for the summer program. School year programs 2 to 7. That's an extended hour already from the Elk River when we were under them. The summer program, we extended hours on both ends, seeing the families' needs in this community. Central Minnesota has done a very good job of working with me and knowing that there's needs on both sides. We were 7:30 to 5:30, now we're gonna be 7 to 6, which is a great addition. Families will be able to use it a lot more. Some program highlights, we do have technology. Like to keep kids away from the technology as much as possible, but we're using it for the positive. We have new Oculus devices where teens will be able to get into them and work on job skills. What it takes to be a mechanic. You get under the car and you actually have to change oil in the car. You can go in the nursing program. You walk in, there's a person that's laying on the table. You got to do everything that's a nurse does. I know a teen said that she wanted to be a nurse and she jumped in there. She goes, "No, I don't want to be a nurse anymore." So there's exploration. They get to see things that are going on. Our Smart Moves program that we do, very hygiene is a huge thing that kids don't always have. You know, being able to get something like that for them. Talking about personal values, goals, setting goals, doing everything like that, which is a very cool program. We had a girl in the program that said she was part of our Youth of the Year, and she said, "Nate, when we had a person cut out, it was in paper, and they wrote every bad word appropriate that they've been called. You know, when they tore it all up, and then she's like, okay, put it back together. They see, yeah, words do hurt people, change people like that. She's like, it was just a big message to me that I've never really thought about. So that program has been always helpful. Power Hour programs are after-school program, helping kids with homework, being able to have the internet accessible, the iPads, being able to do that, and having someone one-to-one sit down with somebody on homework. Working really well with the schools. I was in contact with a few of the kids that were falling behind. Teachers would send me the list, and the boy would put his backpack away and threw his homework in the garbage. So we caught him that way, being able to see, you know, we're on top of things, making sure people are up to reading level. It's one of our big goals, keeping all the younger kids at the 4th grade, up to the 4th grade level, at their reading level. And then we also have the arts, which is anything from creative crafting arts to your fine arts to your summertime we'll do photography club, anything like that. So that's a little bit about club experience.
Gentlemen,
questions?
any questions, concerns? No concerns, I don't know, maybe questions?
I just have a question, Mr.
Commissioner
Chair.
Casper, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask you, on average, how many children do you have participating?
So right now in the school year, we're about 35. We'll see anywhere up to 70 is the highest we've seen. During the summertime, we already have 75 to 80 kids signed up. So I would expect that number to grow exponentially.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Johnski,
75 kids signed up from 7 in the morning till 6 at night?
Correct.
Or
Yep.
in between, or what?
Yep, it's open 7 to 6. They can come, there's no set time they need to be there. The parent can drop them off whenever they need to or when they're on their way to work and pick them up before the 6 o'clock at night. So they can use that all day.
So it's not uncommon, or rather, it is common for a child, and I want to be very careful that I'm using the right terms here, child. I don't know what the age group necessarily is, but for a child to be there from 7 o'clock till 6 o'clock.
Right.
Very common.
Very common.
Okay.
Yep.
You may have mentioned this, when you say the times, the days, are you open 7 days a week, 5 days a week? What are the days?
Yeah, we're open Monday through Friday as of right now. Yep.
Yep. We've looked at weekend programming. We'll do special events on the weekends. We used to be open on the weekends, and it's just very difficult to staff for weekends. So we save those a little bit more now for special events.
It just shows what kind of job you guys are doing. You have 70-some, already signed up for this summer. It's like, wow, shows that you're really needed in this community, so I don't know what else to say on that. Commissioner Blaine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nate and Deb, thank you for your presentation this morning and for helping us to understand, have a better understanding, and for the public to have a better understanding what happens at the Boys and Girls Club. That this isn't necessarily viewed or should be viewed as maybe it had been in the past, where this was like a rec center.
Yep.
I'm extremely impressed by the efforts that you're making to help develop character in these young people. This is more about teaching and influencing than it is structuring activities. And I think your work speaks volumes to the potential that we have with the young people in the community here, and having an organization that's committed and that actually makes a difference. We wouldn't have the rise in numbers if we weren't making a difference. So that's a testament to your success. I want to make sure that you're not afraid to ask us how we can help you. And I think, as I said before, the work that you're doing, I think, is phenomenal in this community, and I applaud you for that and your commitment, and all of your staff there share our support to all of your staff. I just think this is awesome, and I'm grateful that you're here today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Mayor.
I just want to give you kudos for collaborating with the school too, and helping these youngsters with their homework and keeping up to fourth grade reading level at their appropriate level. That's a great idea. And I also wish you luck with your kitchen. We all know that, we probably haven't experienced it like some kids do, but in our community, there's kids that go hungry, and for them to learn, they need to have a full belly, and we appreciate you working on that too.
Absolutely. In fact, we're working on a big capital project where we'll finish the kitchen. It's very close, so we just have to finish that. And then we're also going to do some updates in the facility that the Boys and Girls Club is in. It's got great bones, but just like our clubs in St. Cloud, we just, from time to time, need to do a refresh to make sure that we're getting our kids sort of the best technology that we can and some of those type of things. So, but we're just, like, as I said at the beginning, we're just so lucky to be taking over a program that Nate has done such an incredible job in the community running.
Well, again, I appreciate you stopping by, giving us this great update, because again, it's one of those organizations that you're here, very involved in the community, and we appreciate that. So, any more questions?
Mr. Chair, if I may, Deb, you just made the comment about you're close to getting over the hurdle for the kitchen.
Yes.
Is this, what's that last hurdle? Is it a fiscal issue that needs to be reached, or is this a space issue or equipment, physical things? Can you expound on that a little
Yes,
bit for us?
absolutely. The space is there. I would say 75% of the equipment that we need is in there. So it is part of sort of a little bit bigger refresh that we're doing. So that's probably what's holding up the process just a little bit. So I think we need a commercial stove. We need a venting system so that it's safer to cook. And then we should be ready to go. But we're working with the city of Little Falls and then also Carol Anderson, if you're familiar with her.
Certainly.
Yes, yep.
Yep.
So there's a couple of different programs, also working with the Initiative Foundation on a Main Street grant. So hopefully we can pull all of those things together. And then we have put kitchens in, obviously, into all of our other clubs as well. In St. Cloud, just under 100% of our kids rely on the free or reduced meal program in their schools. So obviously the kids that we're serving and the families that we're serving, predominantly the families struggle with food insecurity. So we have a few other foundations that we've worked with in the past. So we don't feel like this is going to be a real significant challenge to get that kitchen up to speed, but Nate has such a good partnership with the school district to run that program this summer. We'll take the summer to make sure that we're ready by the school year to be up and running on that. But a meal program in St. Cloud, we started them in the year 2000. What we found is that a lot of our kids were coming to the club. They will stay until 8 or 9 o'clock at night. They weren't going home to eat, but I tell you what, they were not doing homework after 5:30 because they were hungry. You know, nobody was focusing. Fights were up, all those type of things. So our club is no different from any other nonprofit. We don't have a bucket of money just sitting around like, oh, let's spend some money on something for the heck of it. But, you know, things like the meal program is something we've never thought about reducing, even when the years have been difficult and budgets have been very tight. It's something we've always continued to invest in because our kids need that. They need all of the programs that Nate talked about in order to be successful down the road, but we have a lot of very, very short-term immediate needs that our kids need, and that's obviously food, our hygiene programs, our mental health programs. So again, we have been very lucky over the years to be able to find enough funding sources, different, and they're always changing, and counties have been a big part of that. We get support from Stearns County, Benton County, Wright County, Sherburne County, because they can see sort of the investment up front leads to so many positive things for our kids, our families, our community, our employers in the long run. And that's a lot of the meetings that Nate and our CEO, Mary, and I have had in the community are with our employers that are saying, I love your club, I want to support it, but my employees need a place where they can feel safe about where their kids are. And the Boys and Girls Club, I think, is really going to become even more so a place where families feel comfortable leaving their kids. It's so important. And Nate talked a little bit about safety. We background check, we fingerprint our staff, we invest in our staff so that they have a good wage, they have good benefits, and all of that stuff is so expensive, but we don't want our staff coming and going every 3 months. Our kids need to develop relationships with staff so that they feel comfortable to have them helping them with their homework or their mental health needs or anything else. So it is an investment that we've made in all of our programs, and I think it's just one that's paying off for our families and our communities.
Thank you. Commissioner Zelinski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Of course.
Two quick things,
Please.
and I think you started, or maybe you've stepped on all of them already, but ages. Are we talking about from kindergarten through senior in high school?
Yes,
Age?
we are. And
18, 21?
previously, Boys and Girls Clubs of America really believed in 6 through 18, and they were pretty hardcore about that. In the St. Cloud community, we have a very big refugee, new-to-country, immigrant community. That community doesn't necessarily graduate at 18. So we expanded our hours or our service ages from 18 to graduation from high school.
Okay.
And that's what we brought to Little Falls as well. And for some reason, and we never figured it out, but why would you start at 6? Why wouldn't you start at 5? So the summer that a child is going into kindergarten is the summer that they're eligible to start using Boys and Girls Club programming. So we've actually expanded that a little bit beyond what the previous organization had for membership ages.
Perfect. And then my final one, Mr. Chair, if I may, is what's the cost? And I'm gonna use the example of, I don't have 6 kids. But for the example, I have 6 kids, ranging from kindergarten until whatever. I can drop my 6 kids off at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I can come back at 6 o'clock for the fun of it? Can you expand on that a little bit?
In the St. Cloud community, yes, for the fun of it. We do have a little bit of a different fee structure here in Little
Okay.
Falls right now. Nate, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. So any youth that is kindergarten to 6th grade is a $300 fee. We
For the-
do
real quick, for the entire summer.
summer, yeah, that's the one flat fee.
Okay.
I do work with families on payment plans, if they need to. I do work with families on getting scholarships if need to. I have a very good idea of a lot of those families that are in need, and also families that are larger, to be able to put money like that up front. So we do the payment plans and stuff like that. Anyone over that age is actually free.
And the school year.
So from 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade,
Yep.
so on and so forth, if they walk in, if my 7th grader walks in at 7 o'clock in the morning and stays there until 6, there truly is no charge at that point?
Correct.
Okay,
Plus
very
they'll
good.
get 2 meals and
You answered my
snacks.
questions.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr.
I
Chair.
don't know if I wanna put this out there, but if you have a 7th or 8th or 9th, it's kind of, my guess is they might be a little difficult to have them stay there. So is there a possibility that they could just leave anytime and then come back? How's that work?
We are custodial care in our Kid Stop sites and for our younger kids, but our older kids can come and go. But staff have so much influence on that type of thing. The only thing we say, if kids leave, they can't necessarily come back into the club. We've had trouble with that in the past sometimes, so we're really careful about that. But for the most part, staff are really working with kids to keep them there or working with parents if there's an issue. Nate, did I-
Yeah, so on our club, if you leave, there has to be a reason to be able to leave, like a doctor's appointment, or mom says, yes, they can leave. We used to not let them come back, but now with a doctor's appointment, you can definitely come back. So it depends on the situation and the youth involved.
When you say come back that day or for the rest of the?
That day,
Oh, no, that day.
that day.
Yep.
Anything else, gentlemen? Again, great information, so
Thank
we
you.
really appreciate it. Don't be a stranger. Come back again.
Oh, we'll come back, because we're, when we finish our expansion, we'll come back and let you know how that's going. And
Great.
thanks-
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you. And you've been so supportive. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb.
We appreciate it. Yes, you guys as well. Happy Memorial
Thanks.
Day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you. Thank you. Drive safe.
Land Services.
Good morning, Miss Amy.
All right. Good morning.
Morning, Amy.
I have a couple of items for you today. Let's see, which one do we have on first? Okay. The first one is to consider rezoning a portion of a parcel for the 100-acre apiary. And this is a rezone from agriculture to rural residential, and it's for the purpose of residential development. This was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission and is supported by the Little Falls Town Board. So that's the first item I have for you, Mr. Chair.
Gentlemen, I need a
Make a
motion.
motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
How about a second?
I'd second that.
I got a second. Any more discussion? I have a question. I know the answer, but I want you to tell me. Why isn't there any, restrictions or, what is it, zoning, you know, like,
Conditions?
conditions? There you go, thank you.
Oh, because it's against the law to condition a rezone. So it's really, the zoning district is a determination that doesn't, there aren't conditions that can be attached by law. You're either changing your official zoning map or you're not. And so when you change that zoning map, then you're opening up that area to all the uses and allowances for the zoning district that's being proposed.
Thank you again, you know, we have a lot of permits coming, there's always conditions. This
Yes.
one doesn't happen, so I thank you for that
Correct.
explanation. Gentlemen, any more discussion?
I just would like to also say that the Little Falls Township was in support of this rezone too.
All right. All right, I got a motion and I have a second. Any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item I have is to consider the proposed land use control ordinance amendments. This was also heard by the Planning Commission at their last meeting and was recommended for approval with one minor change from the text, and that was in addressing recreational vehicles in the Enchanted Lakes subdivision. So that was also recommended for approval by the Planning Commission, and so now it's in front of you.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion, I need a second.
I'll second it,
Any more discussion?
Mr. Chair, can I ask one question?
You go right ahead.
And that question's gonna move into RVs. Hypothetically, I own a lake place and I own an RV. And my RV is parked at my lake place. Just asking the question, that's as legal as can be? Or is there something further with the ordinance update concerning an RV?
Mr. Chair, if you happen to own an RV and store it alongside your garage on your lake place, that's not what we're talking about.
Okay.
We're talking about utilizing that RV on your property as a dwelling unit or a living quarter for either yourself or company or
Okay.
anything like that. That's what we're regulating in this ordinance.
And I truly got that, but I just wanted to hear it again.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? Question I have, again, it's been put, our height restrictions was 25 feet, correct?
In
In
shoreland,
shoreline,
yes.
right. And I had a couple contractors call me and they're doing cartwheels, you know, because
Yeah.
we raised it to 30 feet, so it's a lot easier for them to do the pitches and that sort of the building, so I commend your work for that too, to bring that about, you know, so that's, I believe this is a great changes for the county and for the people of the residents here too. Any more, gentlemen? All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, that's all I have, Mr.
Easy
Chair.
peasy.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you, Amy.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Ms.
for all your
Amy.
work on that.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you, Amy.
Jesus, time is flying
Yeah, what do you mean, it's 11:15?
by. Oh, it's flying by. The time is flying by.
Good morning, Mr. Chair,
Good morning.
Commissioners.
Morning, Nate.
I have for you this morning kind of, I guess we'll call maybe my 1-year recap of Health and Human Services, since it's just been a little over a year. We'll keep it pretty high level and kind of talk about some things HHS has done in the last year and some things, some directions we're heading, I guess. So in short, what do? We're here to help people. We're your social safety net, essentially to those vulnerable populations in our community, making sure that they get care and services they need in a variety of different ways. I think what I would highlight is our great staff. There's a great group of people up there, humble, knowledgeable. A lot of them know several different programmatic areas. There's 107 of us total up there, and what I'll highlight is there's 950 years of service experience just in HHS, with 29 of those employees accounting for 653 of those years. And I think if you roughly look at the math, it's about 1/3 of the employees attribute for 2/3 of the knowledge base at Health and Human Services. And so I think when I'm looking at this demographic and where we're at, we know people are gonna be retiring in the next 3 to 7 years, and that's just because they're heading on to new adventures and rightfully so. And so as as we look forward, I think we're gonna continue to see some changing in our teams. And essentially, since this report was even drafted, we've already had some significant retirements accounting for, a handful more years. I think it was 70-something the other day that we were down here celebrating, so. One thing that we've been doing is just kind of as new staff come in, I've been meeting with some different cohorts just to talk about our onboarding process, what we can do different, kind of talk culture, that sort of stuff. I've met with the first year cohort, and then I've met with the 1 to 3 year cohort. And that's been good, and continuing that on into some different age groups to just continue to hear what keeps people here, what they like, and what we're doing right in the community. I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide. This is high-level look of what our organizational structure looks like right now. There's roughly 16 different types of positions at Health and Human Services, and each of those specialize in some little pieces or nuances of the work, so I won't say they're all exactly the same in those 16.
What do the colors represent, Nate?
That's my color coding, so I can tell what's what. The turquoise or blue is kind of people who report directly to me. That's mostly supervisors, other than the one off on the far right is Beth Brenny. She's her IT business analyst position. The gray,
That's all right.
yeah.
I,
It's different in each one, but it's more for me to be able to see what the different positions are within one team. So there might be case aides, case manager, care coordinator, all within one team, and it's for me to be able to see at a quick glance what the difference is between
I
them.
see, I can see now what you're talking about. There are different positions too, so. Thank you.
Yep.
I don't know why I needed to know that. It's just me.
No, that's perfectly fine. So I touched a little bit on culture and staff development as I'm meeting through those different groups. I think one thing I'll call out a couple things. So, trauma-informed care. So this is some work that they had done prior to me ever coming. It's good work. We've continued it. And it's really the idea of looking at and knowing that we all have experienced our own trauma, as well as our clients and our community members that we're working with on a daily basis have experienced trauma as well. And it's looking at how do we serve them and serve each other well and not re-traumatize them by making them tell their story 3, 4, 8 times as they go through different services. There's 4 different sub-teams within HHS, and they focus on a little bit of different things. Some is community agency interactions, some is our internal staff, and some is just our culture and how we continue to grow this idea that recognizing that everyone has experienced different things and recognizing that and using that to our fullest advantage. The other thing I'll call out just as far as training and development, I think, I said there's 17 under a year of experience. I anticipate that number to grow just as we have people retire, but making sure we're lifting up our new employees and finding those right trainings for them. We've done several trainings, some in ethics, some in diversity. We've done the stress trainings here as all Morrison County. Some of that has been supported through some of our public health grants and some of the stuff we get at HHS. And those trainings have benefited the whole workforce here at Morrison County, not just HHS. Additionally, I would say that we sent a group to in continuous improvement training and a results-based accountability training, which is really about looking at how we're making sure we're serving the residents well. I think looking at our own internal systems and foldering, and I referenced that I'd met with some of those early cohorts of staff who've come on to HHS, and they all kind of point to a little bit, yes, the state systems are confusing and the passwords take a little bit to get, but our own foldering system and how we have the information organized in HHS, for lack of better words, is kind of messy and confusing to follow. And so with some of this work, we're using that to look at our own internal structures, make sure things are streamlined, and so that allows us more time to deliver a better product to the community and just help mitigate any rising caseloads at the time being. Let's see. The other thing I'll touch on is just actively engaging with our community partners. You know, we can't do this on our own here at Health and Human Services. And so our community partners such as Oasis and Northern Pines, Habitat, the HRA, all those ones really are about putting this together for our community and how do we engage them in some of these different efforts as we try to pilot housing or do school-based mental health work. Next slide. Health and Human Services at a glance. I'm not gonna go through all these programs. What I will say is most of these programs that are on here, we come to you as individual reports with some of the programmatic specifics and details. What I will say is we serve people birth to life, or birth to end of life. So, you know, we're serving prenatally with mothers who are expecting in our WIC program, and we're going all the way through some burial services to those families who may be in need to help support them with their loved one. I think, you know, if there's ever specific areas in these programs that you're not hearing us do a report on a regular basis or something additional you'd like to look at, certainly let us know, and I think we can bring that back before you when we get that ready. So this next slide, I was trying to figure out a good way to just kind of show some of the volume of Health and Human Services without going into all those programmatic details. And so essentially what I did is I smushed all the numbers together for the last couple months, starting in June of last year. So that top dark blue line is our financial services line. That would be things like our MA, our SNAP, housing support, long-term care type applications. That green line kind of in the middle represents new resident conduct. So that's essentially looking at the phone calls into HHS, maybe adult maltreatment reports, child protection reports, things along those lines that aren't necessarily an open case. That little lightish blue line above the bottom one is our ongoing cases in like the social services area, and the bottom one is our child support line. I think what I'll say is if you smush this all together like I referenced earlier and you average that out per month, that's roughly 10,500 cases that we're assessing, monitoring, or having contact with on a monthly basis. And I just want to highlight that that's the volume that's coming through the doors, and we're happy to do it, and I feel like we're doing a good job with that. One thing to call out on those numbers though, this is not like a distinct resident count. Like if we were gonna look at that, I'd expect it to maybe be in that 5,000-ish mark, but as you are in these different programs, you have a different case in all those different program areas. So we are touching it that many times once over, so. The other thing I'll mention real quick on this, just talk a little bit about changing demographics, I think. So in this last year time frame, we've had 80 instances where we've used Language Line for translation services, which has accounted for 493 minutes of interactions with a translator. And so I think we'll continue to see this rise as we move into the future. And it's been everything. We've had Ukrainian translation, we've had sign language translation through this, and Spanish, and there's probably a couple other ones that I don't even know off the top of my head. So it's been interesting, and as we come up to speed with that with Language Line and some implementations of iPad, it's really been helpful for some of our casework and interacting with the community we have here.
If I may, you bring up 5,000 to 10,000 cases per month. I hope those are not new cases, that those are repetitive or what, you know, so if it's me, I come to you this month, I'll come to you next month and that.
Yep, and those ongoing trend lines, I intend to keep running things like this for a little bit. I kind of want to see where these numbers are at, and just because I only have a year, and really to get a good trend line, I feel like you need 3 years of data. And so, you know, I would imagine our financial cases is probably gonna run 5,000 to 6,000 people. And that's not gonna be new people each month. That's kind of your ongoing measure. Some people drop on, some new people come on, some people move out of county. And so, no, that is not new cases per month.
And that's where I'd be interested in seeing how many new cases come in, in our county. I'm assuming this is just our people here at the county level.
For the most part, this would include though, like if someone new came in, for example, in December of '23, which is what December would be on this map, I mean, that could attribute to the financial cases rising. My assumption is that's more about the turn of the year and more people turning in applications and that sort of stuff.
Thank you.
Just some one-year highlights. So opioid settlements, I came in last year, May. We kind of hit the ball running on this a little bit. We did our required annual meeting in August of last year. We put together an advisory committee of a diverse group of professionals, and we got an RFP out to the community all within a year. We've got some responses to those RFPs. The advisory team has kind of rated those into the top tier ones. We're working on putting some plans together with them and look to bring them back to you all probably in the next month or so for further directions. Vacation home rentals, sounds like it's been a discussion a little bit off and on here. Prior to me ever coming, I think in reviewing our delegation agreement with MDH and things we're supposed to be doing in there, it was something we should have been done, and so we got that off the ground. I'll throw a thank you to Land Services because they really helped partner with us on that and put together a good product where we're looking at septic and tax classification and then just really ensuring that those homes are safe. Essentially, we want people to come here and enjoy themselves, have a safe time, and hopefully want to come back to Morrison County. And I think this is a step for us to make sure that that's going to be a safe, enjoyable opportunity for them. Legislative last session was very busy. It looks like this year, I haven't seen all the summaries, but this was a busy one as well. But I'll highlight the response sustainability grant from last year and our foundational public health response from last year. And those were ones really on the public health side, looking at community response to emergency preparedness and how do we make sure our community partners are at the table and hearing the same information we are. The foundational public health is really about looking about what are the capabilities and gaps in our community as it goes to public health, and how do we slowly lift the health and well-being of Morrison County as a whole. The housing aid, we've talked about both those several times through the last year. We had the local homeless prevention aid, and then we had the state affordable housing aid. The local homeless prevention aid, we contracted with Oasis, and those dollars are in a pilot to use mitigation funds and hopefully house more of our local families in the community. The state affordable housing aid, we worked with HRA and Habitat for Humanity. This first year, those dollars we're gonna go to Habitat to hopefully build some new homes, and then continue to work with HRA, just looking at housing trust funds and what makes sense for future years here with those dollars. And like I've mentioned before with those community partners, again, I mean, we're collaborating regularly with Sheriff's Office, Little Falls Corrections, Attorney's Office, the hospital, and some of those other partners I've already referenced. So lastly, just to summarize it up, I think, supporting residents is our number one. I put that on top in bold. And we're providing a high volume of services. You kind of heard some of those numbers on that. And we pride ourselves in being responsive and resident-centric. The other thing I'll mention is our staff, again, is just the 1/3 of staff having our 2/3 years of experience. And that's going to change, and that's all right. And so as we go through that transition, just looking at how we get people up to speed as soon as we can and continue to serve our community. Legislative shifts are going to always be a thing. We'll continue to navigate that. What I will call out in this next year is that 3-way split of Department of Human Services into DCY DCYHC, Children's Youth Families, and then direct care and treatment. You know, that will be a kind of a big deal that slowly unrolls this next year, and it will have implications as far as everything we do in HHS, as far as billing, who we're reporting data to, and how those intersections are gonna lie. To some extent, it splits out even the teams within HHS more to where we're reporting to and navigating some of our funds. I touched on the foundational public health responsibilities, but again, looking at those gaps and ways to improve the health in our community, and hopefully mitigate future cases and needs here, down the lines. So overall, HHS is transitioning on multiple fronts, and we will continue to be responsive to serving our community, and look forward to taking on some new initiatives this next year. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Has it really been 1 year already, Nathan?
May 8th,
Okay.
last week.
It has been.
Yep.
I'm confident that one of the things that I said and/or someone from this board said, you had some pretty big shoes to fill when you walked in. Here's the new guy. What happened to the old guy? The old guy's gone, new guy's here, big shoes to fill. And quite honestly, I think that you've done an amazing job. I'm just putting it out there, I'm just saying it like it is. Big shoes to fill, great job that you've done, great report that you just gave us. I just have one question regarding all of it. And that is going to bring us to vacation home rentals. What we're dealing with, and I think you referenced Minnesota, MD.
Minnesota Department of Health is who
Minnesota Department of Health.
sees that side of
Thank you.
things.
Yep, very good. Whatever we're doing based on state law. Am I correct? So we're not, as a county, coming out and saying to anyone, you know what, the county said you're doing this. No, Minnesota state law said we have to do this, and because of our joint partnership with MDH, we're doing it instead of MDH coming down here and doing it for you, if you will.
That'd be correct, because if we fail to do it in theory, we're in violation of our delegation agreement, which then MDH could take back, which is, so your delegation agreement covers that board and lodging, liquor licenses, the cigarette licenses, the other stuff that the sanitarians are out there doing, our kitchen licenses. That's all being done locally within public health and our department. Essentially, if you don't do a delegation agreement with the state, or if they revoke your delegation agreement, then that management oversight all goes back to MDH.
And what we're doing is, we're calling that local control, if you will. We're having local people doing that. We're not bringing people in from Minneapolis, St. Paul, as an example, coming into your place of business or your private home that you're renting out, whatever it might be. We're doing that locally. And that's what thank you, that was very clear. I knew the answer, but I just wanted to hear it. And truly, great report. Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anything else?
Mr. Chair, if I may, Nate, I feel compelled to share this. When we had our employee breakfast here and that gathering and the opportunity for commissioners to meet and visit with staff, and I was extremely impressed by the positive comments from staff within your department directed towards you and your leadership, your attention to detail, and just being straightforward and taking care of things in an immediate fashion, and how well that is respected by your staff. You may know that already. I'll just say that for me personally, as a commissioner, I appreciate our working relationship, and I echo those same things that were said by staff in describing their relationship with you. I enjoy that. I'm glad that you're here. what you've accomplished in the first year leading HHS in Morrison County is impressive, and I hope you will be a long-tenured leader within this organization, and I couldn't be more proud to work with you. Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Casper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and I just agree with the commissioners here. It is so good to have you on board. The shoes have fit well. You wear them well. Thank you for all you do, Nate. Question to you, Nate. From constituents, we get the complaint that social services are swelling, and on one hand, we have the baby boomers sliding toward home plate. But then there's always that statement, we have able-bodied people taking a ride on the system. We hear it over and over again. What would be your response to someone like that, please?
I think as far as swelling, not swelling, I think that always really kind of comes down to what's legislated out of the Capitol and what are we mandated to do versus not mandated to do, essentially. And so that's kind of where I look to whether or not we got to grow with staff or not. Some of the other stuff as far as people, living off the system or whatever you might hear, I guess, out in the community, I think, there's programs and places to report that fraud stuff, and I think we come here annually with, I know, at least a fraud report, and then the words slipping my tongue, but what we're able to recollect then off of some of that. And so I would point to those things that we are actively taking and following up on those reports, and so to some extent, if they feel somebody is, then I would invite them to report that and we'll look into it. So that would be my response, I guess.
Thank you, Nate. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anything else? If not,
Thanks, Nate.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Come on up for the extension report.
Morning, Samantha.
Morning, everybody.
Morning. What do you have for us?
Oh, quite a few updates. I'm getting adjusted to this 3-month schedule. All right, so I'll probably just start with recapping on my school partnerships since it's the end of the school year. So this past school year, I was able to do 10 what we call direct education classes. I did 4 in Lindbergh, 3 in Lincoln, 2 in Dr. Knight, and 1 in Swanville. In addition to those, we did monthly, what we are calling the Flyer Fitness Calendars. So those get shared at the beginning of every month to encourage kids to go take them home, be active at home, a simple activity for them to kind of check off each month or each day during the month and turn back into their gym teacher or teacher for a fun little prize. I've gotten good feedback on that. And then this year we implemented what we were calling a sort of mental flourishing activity. It was the August staff day. They were talking about hearing feedback from students on we're struggling, having issues, and not having a resource until they're in crisis mode. The university had developed some simple mental flourishing activity, a 3-minute box breathing activity, supple breathing, just simple 3 maybe to 5 minute just mental wellness activities that we were sharing out monthly with teachers to share out, to either do in their classroom with kids or share out with their students as one option, as a quick resource to share out with the schools and the students. So I'm actually looking forward to hearing the most feedback on that resource. We are currently doing a survey on all of our resources that we're providing of schools. I do this in partnership with, I forget Sheila's title, Sheila Watercott at the school.
Yep.
I forget her title. Her and Public Health, and School Food Service, I partner with them. We meet monthly, talk about plans, resources, and things we can do in the school. In addition to some of the things I'm doing, they're doing some tobacco things and a few other programs at the school. So right now we're kind of just surveying teachers, getting feedback on those resources we have shared throughout the school year. Was it enough? Too much? But maybe what we can do better and plan is to work on those over the summer, make any changes, adaptations based off that feedback. So yeah, quite a bit going on with the schools, including One Vegetable, One Community is currently going on. This year's vegetable is carrots. If you haven't seen these, we've distributed these. They're almost all distributed. So far, let me look. 2,500 seed packets have gone out throughout the county, including mostly schools. I believe 1,100 or so went out to all the schools in the county. Some up in social services upstairs, the school or the public libraries around the county and things like that. We even did a taste test in the schools of carrots to kind of kick it off and promote it. So we even were able to obtain a costume and have someone wear a costume during the taste test at the elementary school. So that was pretty fun. Kids really got into it. Let's see. And then on some other thing, we kind of created a subcommittee for the Farm to School project that we do in the school. So the Farm to School month is October. I think we did a proclamation last year, which I think we're gonna do again this upcoming school year. But a lot of the feedback we heard from not only schools and producers is more planning time. Farm to School month is October, and school starts in September, so it's kind of just a quick turnaround. So we've actually just started meeting and tentatively planning, and I think March was our first meeting. So we have a couple local producers or growers from the Morrison County area on this committee. We're trying to pull in some representative from each of the schools to kind of push it out to all the schools, because our primary focus has been the Little Falls School District. But we're trying to also push it out. I think we have Royalton, Upsala, and Little Falls so far. We're still working on Royalton, and we have, I think it's Holy Trinity in Pierce, but we're also trying to get the other school in Pierce as well. So it's slowly growing. And we're looking at, again, the Apple Crunch again this October. And if we can get some of the schools to participate on some level, we're thinking it's gonna start small this upcoming year and slowly grow each year. We've even had some of the local producers agree to a virtual farm tour. So Foothills Orchard has agreed to have someone come do a kind of walking tour videotape, and then we can share that in the classrooms as part of Farm to School month. Possibly the school garden, since that doesn't get a lot of publicity and feedback, and maybe talking about the pounds and pounds of produce that come in and get used in the school, that maybe using that and pushing that out through the school Facebook page and things like that, just really making it known, like some of the efforts we're doing for local foods around the area. And I think Brenda Rudolph, I think her farm is Raising a Farmer. I think she also agreed to do potentially virtually farm tour, which we're hoping to get videotaped this summer. Maybe having the high school like video ed class edit it this early fall, and then kind of pushing those out as an option for Farm to School month as well. So at some level, we're kind of hoping to get all the schools to participate this upcoming October, but we're working on some of those planning steps right now already. Oh, and then the past several months, I've been working on adapting one of our child care provider programs or trainings into an online platform. So during COVID, we had adapted 4 of our nutrition ones, and we're this past kind of late fall or late winter, early spring, we've been adapting the physical activity one to sort of a self-paced, semi-online platform. We found a lot of the child care providers appreciate not having to travel and spend an entire day doing a training. They can kind of do most of the training at their own pace or during their own time. So it's kind of set up, they'll watch like a 20, 30-minute info video with that education piece. We send them, we were able to receive grant funds for this pilot to purchase them sort of items or what we call the toolkit to encourage them to do physical activity with their kids. Some safe activities, kind of fairly large foam balls, scarves, chalk, things like that that kind of encourage their children and their childcare to be active and fun in unique ways. And then there'll be Zoom Connect calls, so we meet with them virtually for just 30 minutes in the evening. Actually, the first one's tonight and the second one's tomorrow. Getting their feedback on their lesson, what they thought of it, and then we're gonna take that feedback and adapt and make the updates based on their feedback this summer. With this pilot, we were able to push it out statewide. We had 15 providers sign up. 5 of those I was able to recruit from Morrison County. So we'll get a lot of local feedback as well. And so I'm really looking forward to looking at that. As far as upcoming, I'll be doing a cooking class with Sprout this summer. That will be starting late June. That is tied with their vet CSA program, so it's local veterans that are getting a CSA. We're gonna tie that in with the cooking class. I'll be updating, preparing my meals, or my materials, updating all that for all my school projects. I usually do a lot of that prep work in the summer, so then I'm ready for school, including preparing for the Farm to School Month, my direct education classes, and then maybe whatever updates based off the feedback we get from that survey that's out right now. Oh, and I will be doing a food service training in June, which will allow me to train school food service staff, because they also have to do continuing ed, and usually it's just something they have to like reach out to either the county or a statewide level. I'll be able to do that more locally after I get this training done. And I already have it set up to do with the Little Falls School District in late August during their staff, I don't know what they're called, development days, whatever those are called. So I already have that set up and planned in late August. And then I'll be, with school being out, I'll be focusing on a lot of my other food access work with the increase in food insecurity across the state as well as Morrison County. We're seeing that increased food need and food insecurity, so updating the food resource brochure, pushing that out widely so that people know that what the resources are for food, working with the food shelf and seeing there's talk, we're gonna see if we can maybe possibly extend their hours just a little without overextending their capacity. So we're gonna look at that this summer. And then working with the Food Shelf Coalition and all the food shelves and see what we can do with connecting and sharing resources. I think that is all I have.
All I can say is, look, you got a full plate.
Oh, I'm always busy.
You know, which is great. It just, again, you're not, the Extension's another organization that, you know, people don't realize the work that's put in, but again, for the youth and everything. So, like I say, I'm looking at your, and I say, that's a full plate. So,
Yeah, I really do enjoy it. I've been with Extension for 10 years now, and I've have a lot of great partnerships develop, and it makes the work so much easier. They're coming to me with these ideas and projects. I was actually talking to Nate a couple weeks ago at a different meeting about their kitchen, and I was like, well, we should do cooking classes with your kids. So that might be happening this summer too, but
or some adults maybe.
or maybe adults or even like families too, if we can tie it in with families. But he wasn't exactly sure the timeline for the kitchen at the time, so I have to follow up on him on that. But yeah, so there's a lot of potential projects. I know Sprout is looking at reviving the Gamrot Garden, and so that might be a potential gardening class coming up soon.
But your mind is continuously looking for things to do and keep yourself busy. Which,
Oh yeah, and it's all connected, so which is great because then it all overlaps. I know.
So when you say overlap, is that having a challenge since we have a couple positions to be filled? Does that concern you at all? Are they having you do, you know, anything with horticulture or anything like that at this time?
Not yet. I've had quite a few questions on when they're replacing Anthony because he was going to be one of our connections for the Farm to School project, but he's been able to start some of those connections before he left, and I've just been picking up and maintaining it. And once we get that local foods
Well,
person now.
We appreciate that you're still aboard here, so we thank you for that.
Yeah.
Anything else, gentlemen? Otherwise,
Thank you.
Samantha, thank you for the report. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
Good job.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you all.
Have a great day.
So can we make it through the administrative report before we take 5?
Yep,
All
I can.
right.
It's a great.
Okay, administrative report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one piece of correspondence to share with the board this morning, received last week from the Northland Reliability Project. Again, this has been going on for some time. It's in reference to a right-of-way access, upcoming activities for Northland Reliability Project. As a reminder, this is a 180-mile project, a double-circuit 345 kV transmission line that will span from northern Minnesota, Grand Rapids area to the Becker area, central Minnesota. Field surveys will be conducted along the proposed transmission line routes and alignments. They'll begin late May and continue through late fall '24. They'll be done by foot, ATV, amphibious vehicle, or truck. And you'll see these surveyors out there wearing high visibility vests, and they'll have a business card or letter to verify that they're from GRE. So if our residents see them out on their property, again, this will be the eastern portion of Morrison County. That's what they're doing out there, and they as well receive this notice. But that's out there. Pending any questions of the board, Mr. Chair, that's all I have.
All right, gentlemen, anything? If not, dates for the committee reports.
May 26th through June 8th.
You know, since we had Commissioner Jelinski get a pass last 2 weeks ago, let's let you start this week. How's that sound?
Sounds like a winner. I'm going to start with May 28th. May 28th, 8:30 in the morning, we've got a planning meeting right here in the boardroom. And at 6 o'clock that evening, we've got a Planning Commission Board of Adjustment meeting. On the 30th, I can skip that one. On the 31st, for some information, at 6:45, the Morrison County Chaplain Golf Extravaganza kicks off. That's Friday, the 31st of May. On the 3rd of June, at 10 o'clock in the morning, I'll be in the city of St. Cloud for a State Emergency Communications Board planning meeting. It's pretty much an all-day meeting. On the 4th, 9 o'clock in the morning, right here in this room, the boardroom, we will have a county board meeting. On the 5th, and I don't know that I'll be able to be there for this, but at 10 o'clock in the morning, right here in the boardroom, the local water plan is having a meeting here. The entire board, of course, is invited to be there. Again, I'm not positive that I'll be able to be at that meeting. On the 6th of June at 10 o'clock in the morning, I have a State Emergency Communications Board Legislative Committee meeting, and that meeting is virtual. On the 7th, at 8 o'clock in the morning, this board is going to do a tour of the Sheriff's Annex, which is located directly across the street, little kitty corner, from Public Works. And at 8:30 or thereabouts, we will have a planning meeting at Public Works. That's on the 7th of June. And Mr. Chair, that's all I have.
All right, thank you for that. Commissioner Casper?
Mr. Chair, I believe he covered me.
Perfect. Commissioner Blaine?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Lemire?
May 29th, HRA, and that's it.
He covered me, so that was easy peasy. Thank you for that. Anything else, gentlemen, before we adjourn?
Mr. Chair, just one note, and I think everybody knows this, but the 27th of May is Memorial Day, and the Government Center will be closed for our daily operations. Our 24/7, of course, will still be in effect.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Anything else? Otherwise, it is 10:22. We adjourn.